We're back for round 2 of our Q&A session.
And we have some awesome questions that we did not get to answer in the first one, so we're going to be doing that now.
Yeah, here we go. You want to start?
Okay, so Olivia said, what is the best advice for people who want to lose weight? And they said just caloric deficit and get more walks in.
Yes. Olivia, you already answered your own question.
Cracked the code.
Yeah, that's really all it comes down to. You know, being in a calorie deficit is the bottom line. And if you're not losing weight, it's because you're not in a deficit. But walking is not only going to be a great, complement to being in a deficit, but it's also really good for you no matter what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, getting those steps up. And it doesn't have to be, the 10K a day that we are constantly hearing.
If you're used to 1,200 steps because you work from home or you're at a desk, get that up to 5,000 maybe.
Yeah.
It's just progress because everyone is on a different leg of their journey. And it kind of reminds me of like, is 100 calories a lot or is $100 a lot? It depends on you and what your goals are and where you're starting from. So, right. But yeah, caloric deficit is always going to be the best answer.
Yeah. And when it comes to steps too, like I think I always like to tell people, I really love to get people above, 7,000 a day. That's kind of like the cutoff of where, but like I said, it's like you said, I mean, it's definitely gradual. Like if someone's only getting, 2,000 steps, I'm not going to say, well, now you have to get 7 a day. We're going to ramp it up slowly because it's going to be an adjustment and it's going to be a learning of like how to fit that in. Right. But 7,000 is really, to get someone out of the sedentary range, which is where we want to get out of, so it doesn't have to be 10 or 12, at least 7. If you can get up there, especially if you're trying to lose weight, getting 10 to 12 steps a day, 1,000 steps a day is going to be very helpful. But there is a point of diminishing returns too. I always like to point this out. No need to get more than 15K a day.
Unless you're, training for something specific.
Yes.
If you're doing that, don't listen to us right now.
Right. Or if you're, if you have a job that requires you to get a ton of steps.
Yeah, then maybe you're not really too worried about doing cardio at the gym. You want to just get the muscle or whatever. Yeah. That question reminds me of this one.
Okay.
Because they're talking about an overage instead of a deficit.
Okay. So Ray asks, when you exceed your target number of a macronutrient, and he put carbs in parentheses, because of a cheat meal, is aiming to hit your fat and protein goal for the rest of the day the best approach, even if that means carbs will continue to rise? Or is it better to be over in carbs by a bit and then under in fat and protein? So this is a more like advanced question. So it's for people that are diligently tracking their macros. And to answer that question, I would say it really depends on your overall calories. Okay. So assuming that Ray is in a deficit, we'll say that, he had a cheat meal and he went way over in carbs, but he still hasn't hit his fat and protein yet. And maybe he still has some calories. He's not, over his calories yet. In that case, I would say, yeah, go ahead and try to hit that protein calories. So, and if on the opposite side of it, let's say that cheat meal did put you over in calories, then I would say don't worry about trying to hit those targets. Just let that be your day and just go right back to your plan tomorrow. Unless you brought this up earlier, like unless that was a breakfast or a lunch and then like you're starving later. I'm not saying like just don't eat for the rest of the day. Go on your hunger cues. Like if you're full and satisfied and it's later in the day and you're like, you're good, that's one thing. But if it is later in the day and then, you're starving, then absolutely, have something that's pretty significantly just protein.
And I just thought of this too. So if you had a cheat meal, which brought you over in carbs, you still have, you didn't hit like your fat and your protein for the day. But it makes me think, so if you're over in carbs, you might be full and satisfied. So that tells me, listen to your body. Just because you didn't hit, like Jenna said, just because you didn't hit your fat, your protein, don't just eat that for the F of it to get your macros in. If you're full, then that's fine. But if you're still hungry, then definitely hit, the rest of your macros that you want to hit to reach your goals.
Because at the end of the day, macros are super important. But if you're trying to lose weight or body fat, you really just want to look at your overall all calories at the end of the day. Because sometimes, macros, they could be skewed, they could get messed up. But as long as you're still in a deficit, you're going to be fine.
Exactly. So that brings us to Jen's question.
Okay. So Jen asks, tips to create a meal plan based off your macros. I am so excited for this question because the funny thing is I was actually planning a workshop at work based on just this, an entire workshop. And I was also thinking like we could do an entire episode just on this question.
Oh God, yeah. There's so many answers that we have.
Yeah, and I love this question because let's talk about what a meal plan is versus macros and the pros and cons.
Okay.
And then we'll get into that. So a meal plan is when you either, let me see. I can tell you about my first meal plan.
Okay.
I found it in a magazine.
Awesome. Was it the military diet grapefruit?
Oh no, it wasn't the grapefruit one. It was a, I don't know. It was, this woman looked like Body Goals and it was like, eat this and you'll look like her. And it was basically just chicken and I don't remember it was a green veggie. So probably like broccoli. It was like chicken, broccoli, and sweet potatoes all day.
Wow.
So I don't remember any of the other meals, but I think there was like sweet potato twice. And I'm like, wow, okay.
And that's not even
and probably like hard boiled eggs in the morning or something. I don't know.
And then I went a bodybuilder.
Yeah, this was years ago. So, but here's the thing. You can follow what you're eating, what I'm eating, what that person's eating, and you're never going to look like them.
Yes. So, or like I had a meal plan for my bodybuilding and it was like in the morning, I don't remember exactly word for word, but it was like, a cup of blueberries, avocado and eggs. And then lunch would be like chicken breast, sweet potato. Next meals like bison and rice, and then the next meal. So a meal plan is essentially just a list of foods or
in the amounts
in amounts and meals. And so to create a meal plan based off your macros is like, you could do Jenna's meal plan that she does for the week. You could do mine. The only thing we would adjust is we would look at what your macros are and adjust the measurements for your macros.
Right. But before we even get there, it's like, I want people to understand that because I get a lot of requests for like, oh, can I have a meal plan? Or if someone wants to start working with me, but they expect a meal plan.
Loaded question.
And I am not going to give you a meal plan. No, I'm very anti meal plan in that sense because they're restrictive. What happens when you run out of, you couldn't go to the grocery store, or you go out to eat, or you go on vacation, or you get invited to a friend's house.
You either don't eat or you ruin all your goals.
Yeah. And then
no,
it's boring. Who wants to eat the exact same thing every single day? Right.
Get sick of that.
Yeah. And it's not good for you to be eating the exact same thing every single day forever.
The dog diet works, but we aren't dogs.
Right. And I mean, there is a time and a place for that, but that's a whole nother discussion.
But for a regular person who wants to feel good and improve their physique and not spend every single waking moment in the gym and at the grocery market.
Yeah.
Then
exactly. So then you have, and plus it doesn't teach you anything, because what happens when you get sick of it, or let's say you reach your goal? Well, then what? You're just going to go back to whatever and not be on this meal plan. You're going to end up right back where you started, and you still don't know anything about nutrition. So what I do love, though, is what Jen is asking. How do you make a personal meal plan for you based on your macros? And that is a lovely, lovely thing to do. And that is what I do with my clients, is I teach them how to make their own meal plan you know what? And because and what happens is if you run out of something or you want to swap something or life gets in the way, you can adjust because you made it yourself and you know how to make those adjustments. And now I think we can get into the how.
How, yes. And it just reminded me, I was trying to look for the picture that you sent me that time because Jenna knows I love bison. So she sent me like this graphic and it was like,
oh, wait,
5 different
but you
meals.
said you were bored.
Yes.
And you were like, what else can I do with this?
Yes. So it's not just bison and rice or like bison and sweet potato. And I'm looking for the graphic right now, but I know that she made it, and it was like a bison burger bowl and a like a burrito bowl and
a bison bolognese.
Yes, and a bison bolognese.
Go ahead, you can look for it because I'm gonna start basically talking about, now that we've blabbed on, I'm gonna actually answer the question. So let's say your coach gives you your macros, or maybe you calculated them. Oh, she found it. It might be backwards, but you can say what the different meals were. So what happened was you were eating bison that was on your meal plan or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, what are different things I can do with bison?
Mm-hmm. So Jenna sent me, we have quesadillas, tacos and taco bowls, shepherd's pie, cheeseburger bowl, spaghetti bolognese, and hamburger helper with some pasta and added protein. So it's just like, is it simple? Yes, but when you're in your own head, it's hard to be like, oh wow, I can just make a different meal with this because you're used to doing it a certain way. So there's so many ways that you can be versatile with food.
Yeah. All right. So you've got your macros and you're like, how do I make a meal plan out of this? So the first thing you should do is look at your protein. And should we pick a concrete number? That way we can kind of
for like
go off of there.
Like 150?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So let's say your protein is 150 grams per day. That's what your coach or your calculations, determine that you need to hit. The first step is to figure out, that sounds like an overwhelming number to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So the first thing to do is to break it down into how many meals a day you're going to eat. So let's say you're a person that likes to eat 4 meals a day. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do the math or pull up a calculator?
Yes. Okay. So, and if it's easier, 25, if we do 100 grams of protein, it's 25 per meal instead of 150.
Yeah. All right. Want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you have 100 grams of protein per day and you're going to divide that across 4 meals. Now, you have to get 25 grams of protein per meal. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't have to do that, but it's a way to break it down to make it a little bit easier. So it's 25 grams is actually a very small amount.
And it's like a map for you to hit, because you can start to hit 25 grams of protein for your 4 meals, but then you might get into the macros and into other food options. And you might think, well, if I do, 35 grams of protein in my breakfast, because I like to do cottage cheese whipped in my eggs and I like to add a little cheese in there. Mm-hmm. That's going to be more protein. And then say like at dinner time, you're going to have a protein option, like a steak or chicken or fish. Mm-hmm. So then in your middle 2 meals, you don't have to focus as much on the protein, and you can look for, maybe some peanut butter or rice cake and other things. But you can, variable the amounts of protein once you get into the rhythm of it.
Right. So, and also if your protein is very high, like let's say it's, back up to the 150
or even 200.
Yeah. And you find that
it's 50
right
protein.
So if you find that and you break it down to number of meals and you're like, whoa, that's still too high for me, then you may need to add another meal. So you break that into a smaller chunk so it's more manageable. So that's how you're going to individually determine how many meals a day you're going to eat. You're going to break up that protein, and that's step 1. Then you'll go into your tracking app. And let's go back to our original example of it's 25 grams. So especially if you use macros first, this is really an awesome feature that I don't think any other app has. You can tell it that you need to hit 25 grams and it'll tell you exactly how much chicken or egg whites or bison or whatever it is that you're going to be eating. That way you don't have to wonder like, okay, well, how much chicken am I supposed to have to equal 25 grams?
Yes. Because you can weigh it out and figure it out, but I love the Macros First app because
Yeah.
it's like intuitive in that way.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you need to hit 25 grams of protein. Well, you need this much chicken breast.
exactly. So once you have your protein mapped out for the day, the next step is going to be putting in your carbs and fats. So now you're going to look at each of those protein sources that you chose because you like them, right? And you're going to think about what you want to go with that. So let's say you put, an egg and you put egg and egg whites in for your protein in the morning. Then you're like, okay, what do I want to have with that? Maybe I want to have oatmeal. Maybe I want to have, avocado toast. Maybe I want to have whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to choose what you like for a carb and choose what you like for a fat source. So let's say we did, the egg whites, and avocado toast. We have fat from the avocado and a little from the yolk. And then we have our carb from the bread.
Mm-hmm.
And we already had our protein there. So that's a great breakfast. If you want to add another fruit, if you have extra carbs, that would be phenomenal. So maybe you're going to have some blueberries with that,
And I feel like as a scapegoat to reaching your protein, never shy away from either, mixing a protein, scoop of protein with some water or milk yourself, or grabbing one at the convenience store, because they're usually 24, 20, 25 grams of protein that you didn't have to think about or cook.
Right.
If that's going to help you reach your goals too.
So once you go through and you add in a carb and a healthy fat for the rest of your meals, then you're going to go and look at what you have left across the top. Maybe you still have some carbs and some fat left over. Then you can go in and increase the portions of each of those things in your meals until you get something that is going to check all those boxes. And once you're done with that, you're not done yet, because then I also want you to look at your fiber. So in Macros First, you can set it up so it'll show you your fiber at the top. And if you're hitting your fiber goal, then great. If not, then we need to look back through your day and make sure, do we have like about 2 servings of fruit? Do we have, several servings of veggies? Are we choosing whole grains to help us hit that fiber goal? Anything else that you want to add to that?
No, but I just wanted to intercept and say, you know how I asked about the buffalo chicken dip this week? I made it with just buffalo sauce, pulled chicken breast, and cheese.
How was it?
Came out awesome. But guess what I made for like a tapenade or whatever on top? I had an avocado that was ripe, and I had broccoli. So I chopped up the avocado and the broccoli really, really fine, and it kind of came. And I, put some lime and lemon juice and some sea salt, and I did a tostada with the buffalo chicken, and then I spread the broccoli avocado on top of it, and it was like really awesome. And
that sounds amazing.
And it's something I never did before, like the broccoli and the avocado, but it came out really good. And it's like, you have some extra veggies or something, throw that in your, find a way how to make it fun and implement it in the meal too. Because I was like, I want more than just, because I wasn't making a guacamole. I just wanted to make like something to add onto the buffalo, because it would be pretty spicy. And it mellowed it out a little bit, and it was just fun. So I love when we can include things that we don't normally do, but that we think of, and it works. So
exactly.
Don't be afraid to try new things.
The last thing I want to say about this meal plan, that let's say we've gone through it, we've hit all the macros, we've hit the calorie target, we hit the fiber goal. Now the thing is, you're going to look at how to adjust it as time goes on. So maybe you're going to swap those blueberries out next week and you're going to have strawberries instead. Maybe you're going to swap out the chicken and you're going to have turkey next week. Maybe you're going to, instead of sweet potatoes, you're going to do roasted, multicolored potatoes or whatever. You're going to switch out your specific foods for something close to, equivalency wise. That way you have that healthy variety in your diet, which is really good for your gut health and good for your mental health too, because it's going to keep it fresh and not so boring.
And I feel like it's fun too if you can pick from the fruits and vegetables that are in season too, because then you can always have the option to, you can always eat your favorite fruits, but it's also like have the watermelon in the summer or when it's around, and that's also ways to, make varieties changes to your meal plan.
Yeah.
And
Do we have
then
any other questions?
I did want to answer Gary's question, which was, why does my body fat increase when I am fasting?
Okay. So I would need to ask a clarifying question. Is he fasting long term? And when is he checking his body fat?
Yes, like,
Because if you're like getting on your bathroom scale that has like the little
the
electroimpedance things, the little, and it like one of those scales that tells you your body fat. If he's going by that on a day-to-day basis, I would not believe it at all.
I would recommend going to a place like 5 Star or that has like the weigh-in
in-body,
yeah, the
yeah.
in-body scan, because it's not 100%. I think it is more accurate than
It's more accurate than your home scale.
because my home scale, it's like the body. I don't even look at the body fat percent on my home scale because I know it's not
Yeah.
as accurate. But I feel like other than that, why your body fat increases when you're fasting, it's
Well, this is the thing. I don't believe that that's
it may
actually
it may be showing you that, but
Yeah.
it might not actually be the case.
exactly.
And
However,
I think that maybe
neither one of us are fans of fasting
yeah,
for a variety of reasons too.
and I think maybe it's like your body, like if you are paying attention to that and it's happened over time that your body fat increases when you're fasting without us knowing like the rest of the information, I think maybe it's your body's response because like you're not putting in the nutrients at a regular pace and routine,
You know what I think?
that it's like holding on to the fat because you're not. No,
I think he's losing muscle.
Oh,
And when
okay.
you lose muscle, your body fat percentage goes up because your lean mass is going down.
It just makes sense,
Right.
So
that
okay,
because when you're fasting,
You're not
fueling
you're
yourself.
not fueling, so I mean, not that your muscle's technically eating yourself or something,
No.
but
If it's to that extreme. Now, I don't believe
no,
like
is it true that like if your body's in like it's extreme, not talking about Gary, but extreme, if you're fasting, your body doesn't eat the fat because that stores energy longer. Your body eats your protein, right?
So muscle is an expensive tissue to maintain.
Yes.
Meaning it takes a lot of energy for your body to hold on to that muscle. So it's going to let go of muscle first. Like if you're
Yes.
on like Naked and Afraid, your body is going to fly through that muscle mass faster than it will your fat. Now, at the end of that show, like people lose a ton of weight. And pretty quickly. And that's kind of like the proof that they lose a lot of muscle mass first before they lose that fat tissue.
And it's I'm laughing because of the word skinny fat in my head, but it's like it's not that. It's just that it's the product of losing all your body composition, period. Like your everything when you're in a Naked and Afraid type of situation or something.
So for all of those reasons, and more, I'm really not a fan of fasting, unless I think, like I just across the board, I do not recommend it for women ever. End of story. I just don't. You're already fasting when you're sleeping. Okay.
Good 12 hours. Well,
yeah. Depending on when you have your last meal at night, or in the late afternoon, then you're fasting all night while you're sleeping. And I personally here's my version of fasting. I don't eat as soon as I wake up in the morning because I want to get up and get ready for work. Now that I'm in prep, I'm doing cardio first thing. Then I'm getting ready for work, going to work, and I have a class that I teach immediately upon getting to work. Then I have my breakfast.
Yes.
And that technically is fasting-ish. But it's really part of it is just shortening my eating window so that I'm not sure how to explain it. I'm not trying to I'm just trying to not have my breakfast. I'm like, when would I fit it in? You know what I mean? It just fits my day is what I'm trying to say. I'm not intentionally trying to starve myself until a certain hour. It just fits my schedule.
Yes.
And it works for my body and I'm happy and I'm not, I'm hungry when I go to eat my breakfast, but I'm not absolutely starving and I'm going to die.
Are
you know?
you always hungry for your next meal?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you want to, first of all, you want to be hungry when you get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be hungry when it's time for your next meal, because that is your body's proof that your metabolism is working.
It's responding. It's
Yeah.
giving you the cue.
And you're using that food.
Yes, and having the
Mhm.
hunger cue, having the full cue is really important. And
Yeah.
you might not have that feeling until you restart your metabolism, in the sense of getting into a proper routine that works for your body and your goals.
Right. And so now let me just say, for men, I want to give a reason where fasting could actually work and
Ooh.
be not where I'm like so against it.
Mhm.
It might be, let's say you find that you eat your dinner, you have all your meals and you hit your targets. You're not starving yourself, but you just have this habit of like
Snacking?
mindlessly snacking at night after dinner. And if you decide that you're going to fast and it's going to start at a certain, whatever time that you eat dinner, and you're not going to snack for the rest of the night and then go to bed. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If you actually find that works in your life and you can be disciplined like that, then go for it.
Yeah.
That's not going to hurt you. That's going to help you not exceed your calorie target.
Yes.
You know?
I relate to that in the sense of, I don't think it was fasting. But I mean, I guess, so when I was in high school, my mom would be like, it would be after I ate all my meals, plenty of them, and dinner, and probably had seconds and thirds because I, athletic. And so then I would go to the pantry. My mom would be like, Aurora, you don't need to eat after 6:30. Like, because the schedule I was in, I already ate plenty for the whole day. I had dinner, I had lunch, breakfast, dessert probably. And it was helpful to me because when I would do that, it would be out of boredom, or pretty much just boredom. It wasn't actually hunger. So it's nice to have that. And now that doesn't really fit my lifestyle. I'm eating past 6 a lot of the time, but that's usually because I get started a little bit later. Whereas when I was in high school, I was out of the door by 7 a.m. So
yeah,
I already had my first meal. So it's important to know what cues are real and actually felt, because your hunger might just be boredom.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But I'm not trying to invalidate anyone, because the hunger could also be real hunger, and you need to feel it yourself.
Exactly. And why don't we just like touch on different scenarios?
Yeah.
Like, I find that, let's say you are in a deficit, you're trying to cut your calories and you're just starving at night. I mean, this is totally going off on a tangent, but I do feel like we addressed that question adequately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
let's say you're absolutely starving before bed. I would recommend having a little bit of fat, if you can kind of reserve some fat grams in your day.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, because what fat does is it slows digestion, and also complex carbs take a little bit longer to digest. So if you could pair a fat with a complex carb before bed, assuming you've already hit your protein target, then even if it's just a little bit of peanut butter or almond butter and maybe like a whole grain toast or something.
And I'll have to fact check this, because I did get this information on Instagram, but it made sense to me. And so oatmeal, I learned that there's like natural melatonin in oatmeal. And so even if you have like a little tiny like quarter cup of oats that you just heated up with a tablespoon of peanut butter or almond butter, I think that would be like so good, because the peanut butter, the fat, but also the melatonin from the oats.
Yeah, that's really.
And you don't need to have a whole cup of it. Nope. Just have
just a little bit. It's gonna, trust me.
It'll give you that fullness too, with the fat and the little bit of carb.
Because when you're really in a deep cut, it can be hard to sleep if you're, super hungry like that. And you know what I really like is Better Oats. They come in the little packets. They're 100 calories, and they're, it's small, but it's still decent amount, right? And they're sugar free, but they're very well flavored, like cinnamon roll. They have like maple, whatever. And if you do that, like with that peanut butter, almond butter, man, that would be the most ideal before bed snack.
Oh yeah. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, you'll definitely sleep well.
And then you'll be
Mhm.
nice and sleepy and full. And then, believe it or not, you're going to be ready to go in the morning, and those hunger cues are going to start as soon as you wake up.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Which is a good thing. Waking up hungry is a sign of a healthy metabolism. I often hear, especially with my weight loss clients, that they're not hungry in the morning. And I try to explain to them how, you know, that's kind of why we're at where we're at. And we need to turn that around.
Yes, definitely.
By eating breakfast.
Yes.
Regardless of whether you're hungry or not, we need to get things going by getting onto a very predictable meal pattern. The body likes consistency, and it likes consistency. You know how we've always heard, like, you should go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even if it's the weekend. I do not do that. But we should. But it's really true about eating as well. You should have, like, I eat 4 meals a day, 7 days a week. That does not change. I may have more. I'm never going to have less. That is just what works for me. My body likes it. So whether you eat 3, 4, 5, I don't care, but it needs to be consistent. You can't just eat, only eat breakfast on the weekends because it's inconvenient during the work week. We've got to find a way around
Your body do not like that.
No.
And it almost reminds me of, how less is more is a really great saying. It almost makes me think that for when it comes to food and nutrition in this stage, it's like more is actually less. In the sense of that comparison of, I only eat a little and I eat a lot. Yeah. It's like, no, more is actually less. Because if you're eating less, it's more calories. So that's kind of where I'm going with that.
I actually thought about that last night because I had breakfast for dinner.
I like that. That looked good.
Yeah, but it was 1 egg, 200 grams of egg whites with potatoes and onions, and a bagel and cream cheese. And even Anthony said something when I put the plate down, because the pile of eggs was pretty massive.
He was like, what?
And I was like, this is a perfect example of what you just said, where someone's like, I don't eat much, but it's such a high calorie, calorie dense food that it looks like a tiny little amount. You know what I mean? Like a little cheeseburger would have been way more calories than what I ate, but it was so tiny and just not satisfying. Whereas my plate was low calorie, but huge. And super satisfying.
I really like the accounts that do that. They'll put a Starbucks loaf in a coffee, and it'll be like basically 2,000 calories. But then they actually cook a whole entire plate of eggs with peppers and cheese and potatoes, and they're like, this is half of the amount of calories of that.
Yeah.
I really love that presentation, the visualization of that, because more is less.
Exactly.
The more food, less calories, but healthier for you is the point.
Yeah. And more satisfying. You should enjoy what you're eating.
Yes.
And
the loaf in the Starbucks ain't ever bad, but if it's your everyday, there might be other options for you to feel better.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a really good
awesome
episode. We got through all of our questions this time. I think we'll definitely do this again, right?
Yes, definitely. And thank you everyone for asking us those questions to fill our episodes with.
See you next time.